let me just get a direct quote here. A cataclysm of storm and fire and ash and lightning, so intensely violent that it was seen 10 horizons away.
Oh no. That's too far.
So, Ruination 4.0? Like, are we getting there?
Actually, this would be the prequel, right? This would be like beta. Beta or alpha testing.
And it's like, hey, if Shurima gets one, if the Shadow Isles get one, the Freljord can get one too, all right?
Look under your chairs.
It's a ruination!
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 85. I'm your host, Ryan, here with the one and only, the return, Hetchington.
I've survived. Sorry, I've been gone for a minute. It's been, dealing with life.
Yeah.
But luckily, now I can finally get back to doing the show. I've missed you. I've missed you, Ryan. I haven't missed the audience. I've missed you. No, I missed you guys too.
Well, they haven't missed housekeeping because I made sure to keep that going.
Well, housekeeping goes up top.
It goes up top, right? So you can listen to us everywhere. You can reach us by email at podcastcore@gmail.com. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info, and then follow us on any platform or all the platforms because that helps with discoverability. We appreciate that. Then leave a like, a comment, and a short review. We appreciate that as well. But the easiest way is just to tell one friend to slow down and focus by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
I've missed you housekeeping.
So today we're talking about something that we've been waiting. It's almost cool we've had this kind of long break of sorts because we've wanted to talk about Ornn for a while. And with all the cards coming out during the extended spree of Stardian stuff.
The Stardians, thank you.
The Stardian stuff with the release of the Ruination book, which isn't going to interfere with this content. We're going to just give you more. But we finally get to start talking about some big picture stuff again.
Yeah, and this is like one of those champions that we really wanted to dive into whether he showed up in the Runeterra or not, because he, as far as just off of timeline, he's one of those characters that's been around the Freljord forever. So when you're talking about Freljord lore, you got to talk about Ornn. And it's great to actually see him in the card game, not only because it's an excuse for us to talk about him on the show, but the game is so different now with all these equipments and the improvise and forge mechanics. It's like it feels like playing a whole new game, and it's even funnier because I haven't laddered at all. I've just been doing Path of Champions, and it still feels different.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back into it. We were just talking about it because I haven't been playing as much, but it's inevitable. I'll be back there. But let's go ahead and hop into it. So the main topic, godly indifference. And we start always with this spell. So for this one, we're talking about the Hearthbloods. And the Hearthbloods are a group that will become important when we talk about the bio, and then in the episode where we do one of Ornn's stories, even more so. But the spell we're talking about is Gift of the Hearthblood, which is a pretty decent card, especially for ramping decks. It fits well into the Freljord archetype. It's a 5-cost burst spell, but at the point where you want to play it, it makes sense. Essentially what it does is it heals your Nexus for 4, and then it grants all allies and equipment in your deck +1/+1, and then you draw one of them. It's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
And I haven't been here for a second, so have we talked about equipments on the show yet?
No.
So equipments essentially kind of work like a creature buff. They are played at focus speed, but also like they're they're played at creature speed. So it's like you get to play it, but your turn ends.
Yeah.
But there's no chance for the opponent to interact or anything during that. So it's not like fast or slow. And when that creature dies, the equipment returns to your hand.
Yeah.
But whatever stats are on the equipment, it goes onto the equipped character, kind of like an attach unit. So this spell is going to be is just good in equipment decks, not only because you're buffing your whole deck, but you're also buffing the equipments. So you're buffing your buffs.
Yep.
which is awesome. And then you got that heal on top of it. So this is a damn good card in that
Yeah.
sense, but that's not all we care about here.
No, it's referencing the Hearthbloods, which is the big part. And it's a short quote, but it says, "Come warm yourself by the fire," from the Hearthblood Mender, which coincidentally, wink, wink, nod, nod, is what the next card is that we're going to talk about, which is the unit. So the unit, Hearthblood Mender, is pretty vanilla by Freljord standards. He's a 5/5 with on play Forge, which, that does what Hetch mentioned, where you create.
Forge,
Or it buffs.
Yeah, Forge
+1/+1.
is targeting an ally, and it gives that ally +1/+1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And any ally or an ally, and then heal it and your Nexus for 3. So once again, in the ramping meta, that makes sense, right? That archetype.
Oh yeah, like getting a heal on a body is really good.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that they're kind of pushing this a little bit more, because we've seen that kind of like with back in the day with Tarek's release. And it never really took off a lot. And that's just by the way that the metas ended up shaping up.
Yeah.
But I like this. It fits really well, not only with Freljord, like its overall game identity, but with the Hearthblood themselves. Because the Hearthblood, they're a hardy people, but they're very hospitable.
Yeah.
So this is just on theme. Just like, if you're gonna meet the Hearthblood, you're gonna sleep in a warm bed, and you're gonna have a hot meal in your stomach.
Yeah.
So this is perfect.
They're an important group of people. And the quote on this one is more significant and kind of leads from what we just talked about, where it says, "The Hearthblood were gone, all of them, when Ornn decided to leave the world. Generations passed, and their name was all but forgotten. More recently, however, the tale of Ornn resurfaced, and it was whispered that some had begun to return to the way of the Hearthblood." So we'll talk about more. This is building up to the bio and then the further story.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the whole concept.
We'll let you know what the will of the Hearthblood is. Yeah, we'll get there.
And I mean, the reason for their name is the next card. So this is one of those episodes where we actually have a landmark to talk about, because it's Ornn. So we're talking about Ornn's Forge. And this fits perfectly into the ramping archetype like everything else along here. It says it's a 3 cost, which is good for a landmark. And it has, especially in this style of deck, it has, when I'm summoned or round start, create a fleeting time and dedication in hand. This is a pretty straightforward focus card that forges an ally.
Yeah. So Pantheon players rejoice. You get a 1 mana, basically a gem, or better than a gem every turn. Pantheon fans were just like losing it for this one. And if you are following along with us and you're like looking at the cards, open up the card art. Just do yourself a favor.
Yes.
The art on this is incredible. I want to go here. I
just want to go.
I just want to go on tour with like an old disposable camera. Ooh, click, click. And you can just hear me winding up the camera.
Hetch, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Oh my God. Never mind. I didn't miss the show anymore. Thanks. I needed that.
So the quote on this one gives us the namesake of the Hearthbloods. "Alone in the hearth home's forge, with nothing but the sound of the molten rivers, slow coursing below, and the ring of hammer on anvil. He quite liked that." Now, I like how hammer is capitalized, because we'll talk about that as well.
Foreshadowing.
All right, take us into it. Let's talk about Ornn.
All right. So Ornn is a very interesting character, because we don't really know too much about Ornn biologically speaking, or at least as far as in the lore that we've spoken about so far. And so if we're looking at it just from a biological standpoint, the people of Freljord view Ornn as a descendant of old demigods, the ones that shaped the land itself and brought forth the first snows. So we're not entirely sure what's the deal with Ornn. Like, is he a celestial, or is he like one of the old spirits similar to Anivia, or is it more, like a more mortal race that just lives a long time? More mortal. But besides that, we're gonna jump to like who Ornn is as a being, and that is someone who just wants to be alone. Like the old adage of I want to sit here and feed my birds and
Yeah.
no one bother me. Ornn just doesn't want to be bothered. He values privacy, solitude, and focus. And this is where he ends up like finding a place to set up shop, which happens to be beneath a dormant volcano. And he decides to go into a craft that he loves, which is forging items. So he's a
Yeah.
blacksmith. He's a blacksmith. He just wants to be left alone with his blacksmith work, and that's all he wants.
Yeah, one neat concept here, which we like to talk about, is the concept of time for these larger than life beings, right? So we like to always talk about vampires and the concept of being immortal and how that plays into the overarching story beats. But for him, like Ornn is a person that takes his time, but he takes his time by the standards of an immortal being.
Yes. So, like this early on in the bio, we're gonna, it mentions that he dedicates himself to his craft, and with this dedication, he is able to create relics that are of bewildering high quality.
Yeah.
And then they mention that there's possibly like the Avarosan bow and Brahm's shield are things that Ornn created, which we know from Brahm's story and basically any other Freljord story that those are these mythic weapons.
Yes.
Have been around for thousands of years.
Yep. And can really only be used by the Iceborn, right?
Yes, it can only be used by the Iceborn, but like these are like relics that are known to follow legendary people. And they have been known to be there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about the guy that makes him as if he's just a normal blacksmith and he just wants to, hit his hammer on an anvil.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a very interesting of just like, yeah, he's just a simple dude. But wait, how long has he been here? So, now with this, we then get to like talk a little bit about the time frame, which is nobody really knows. Like they don't know how, like if Ornn, like when Ornn came into the picture, or if he actually created these things that have been around for thousands of years, but it seems like his work, so it's gotta be. And it's all of these questions that kind of build up to like people building a hype behind it. And when you build up a hype, you're gonna have fans.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because we've talked about on this show other greater than life beings and some things that are just like, the nightmare concept that is Nocturne, the concept of Aurelian Soul, who has technically been around but hasn't been involved the whole time, and things like that, where Ornn has he been, like, where does he fit in? Is he a concept? Is he an actual being? Because, he's mentioned as a demigod here, not a full god per se. So it gives us a lot to play with. And we have talked about things like Anivia, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where like that gets a little more confusing because he does start building up a fan base.
Yeah.
And essentially like they develop a religion behind it, and they become a group of people known as the Hearthblood.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hearthblood traveled to this dormant volcano, which they end up calling the Hearth Home. And they decide that they are going to follow in Ornn's example. Now, I know we've talked a lot before as far as like Freljord's like one of your favorite regions.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
that's where my wife lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Disgusting. And as far as like if, jumping into if we got to jump into the world of Runeterra, it's like, sure, Freljord's not my favorite region, but I would love to be with the Hearthblood. These guys are awesome because it's like, we want to follow Ornn's example. And Ornn's example is literally just, leave me alone. I just want to do my work.
He's an ice hippie.
And so the people that end up following him are just artisans.
Yeah.
They're just people who want to hone their craft and perfect it. So they set up shop on this dormant volcano, and they just create a society of people who are making fine goods and some of the best goods known out there, and then just trading these fine goods with each other. And that's it. Like, that sounds awesome. It was like basically a whole town of a medieval tavern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sign me up. Shut up and take my money. How do I get there?
And it's interesting because up to this point, like the little bit of Freljord, because we talked a lot about how in Legends of Runeterra, Freljord representation has been struggling for a while, which is why another reason we were hyped for Ornn coming out. But with what we've talked about up to that point, as you are loyal listeners who have listened to all those episodes, hopefully,
we know you
have heard, is we're dealing with a war-torn environment that's extremely dangerous. You have the threat of the Watchers waking up and all this stuff while 3 tribes go at it, and the weather situation is becoming so harsh that even Anivia doesn't want to get involved. Like, that's what we know. So to have the Hearthbloods being represented and Ornn being shown as this chill dude is pretty neat. It's a neat contrast.
And that really is like the next point, is that he's being shown as a chill dude, because these guys set up shop at his home, and he's just kind of like, all right, cool. If y'all leave me alone, that's fine.
Yeah.
And the most that he does as far as interacting with these people is that if they see him, they'll show like the works that they're trying to perfect, and he'll either give them a nod or a shake of the head with no other words and move on. And the people continually just take that as either signs of approval or signs of disapproval.
Yeah.
And either way, the result is the same. We have to get better at our craft.
Yeah.
And that's it. So this also just kind of plays more into like this whole idea of we don't know what Ornn is, because it's like he's still just a chill dude hanging out with these people.
This is my I like this type of secular approach to religion.
I love it.
It's very laid back, very chill, but it's all about respect, baby.
Yeah, it's all about respect
and hard work.
And hospitality. Yeah. Like, everyone's still just being chill with each other. It's just like, and be a good neighbor, whatever. Yeah.
But
just leave me alone.
That doesn't make a story.
Yeah, no, because, and especially since you were mentioning that Runeterra is not really in the best of places during this.
How did we get there?
So, and this is where his bio gets a little bit fun, and one of the reasons we are excited to dive into Ornn is because in the bio, we just have one catastrophic night.
Yeah.
And on this catastrophic night, Ornn gets into a fight with his brother, Volibear. Now, in Volibear, we haven't seen him like in Runeterra or anything, but
we'll get there.
We're definitely gonna get there, because we love talking about this crap. And Volibear is a really cool character too.
Every Thor needs a Loki.
And this is where we start kind of floating the demigod idea again, because Ornn gets into a fight with Volibear, and they create. Let me just get a direct quote here. A cataclysm of storm and fire and ash and lightning, so intensely violent that it was seen 10 horizons away.
Oh no. That's too far.
So, Ruination 4.0? Like, are we getting there?
Actually, this would be the prequel, right? This would be like beta or alpha testing.
And it's like, hey, if Shurima gets one, if the Shadow Isles get one, the Freljord can get one too. All right,
look under your chairs.
It's a ruination. So, and of course, the hearth home is the nesting place of the Hearthblood. That's where they set up shop to be close to Ornn. And Ornn is a homebody. He's not leaving that house, so we know that Volibear went to him. And yeah, if all this death and destruction can be seen from 10 horizons away, we know what happened to the Hearthblood.
Yeah.
And so, another direct quote: "When the dust settled, Hearthhome was a smoldering caldera, and the Hearthblood were reduced to scattered bones and cinders."
They don't hold their tongue in the description, both in this and in his story, which we'll get into in another episode. They tell you exactly what happened. They were annihilated.
Yes, and that really kind of it really sums up the end of his bio here too, because Ornn is very unhappy, not only because of the fight that he got in with Volibear, which in the bio even describes that no one knows why.
Yeah.
But we do know why, and we're going to get there, and we're excited to. We can't wait. But, we don't know why this fight happened, but Ornn is not happy because the fight happened.
Yeah.
And he's not happy because he just killed all these chill dudes.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want to do that. He wanted to be left alone, and by nature, that means he wanted to leave everyone else alone.
Yeah. And
so then, racked with guilt, he retreats into isolation of his foundry and buried himself in his work for an age. We don't know how long.
A lot of us know what it's like to be down on your luck and just want to be left alone to your own devices and chilling, right?
Oof. At 2, Ryan.
Listen, we have a lot of layers here at the Casuals of Runeterra. We like to put a personal spin on everything we do.
I love the show.
So if you're out there struggling, just look to Ornn, man. He makes it through.
Yes. And so this goes on for a long time until we get to a point where like the rest of Runeterra in the quote unquote present time is getting rocked by this movement of Noxian presence everywhere.
Yeah.
Wars all across the horizons, and Ornn knows that the Freljord and the rest of Runeterra is going to need a good blacksmith. And that's where Ornn kind of starts showing back up in the picture.
Yeah.
And that's where his bio leaves off. So it really does like kind of set up a lot of exciting stuff to get to.
Yeah.
But that's by nature, the whole Noxian occupation just sets that up itself.
Yeah.
And then we're really excited to see where he goes, but we can talk about his card right now. And I love this card. This is a card that has been really needed, in my opinion, for decks that want to go late. Because I think, like, especially in Freljord, the only other real cards that want to go late are like Tryndamere and Anivia.
Yeah.
Which neither one of them has gotten a lot of support, to be fair.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what the deal is.
They do their own thing.
And Ornn is just so different while also being a little bit faster because cough, cough, mana costs. So Ornn is a 7 mana 4/4 with tough. That's depressing, but don't worry, it does get better. So when you play Ornn, equip me with an exact copy of an ally's equipment or the strongest equipment from hand. So if you're playing in an equipment deck, like we talked before, you get the stats of those equipments. And especially if you're using some of these cards that buff your equipments, he's not dropping as a 4/4. He's going to be dropping as something pretty scary.
Yeah. With tough,
which is like so good. He's resilient too.
Yeah.
And he also has on the attack, forge me twice. So even if somehow in some ludicrous, poor deck building world, you drop Ornn as a vanilla 4/4 with tough, he's still going to be a 6/6 with tough for 7 mana. So sure, it's not like a great deal, but like if you try your best to make it bad, it's still okay. Like Ornn is a really cool card in that regard. But his level up is that an ally has struck for 10 plus damage, which Ornn himself is going to be able to kind of do that pretty easily on his own. So heck yeah. And his flip side is he's a 5/5 with tough. He still has the equip an exact copy of an ally's equipment or the strongest one from hand. Mm-hmm. So if you're still playing the flip form down, he's going to be gigantic. And this is the new attack thing is why I love this card so much. And now when he attacks, forge me twice, then summon an attacking Spirit of the Ram with my stats. Now, Spirit of the Ram is an ephemeral unit that will be summoned with Ornn stats, but it is ephemeral with Overwhelm. Yeah, perfect, done. That because if you're gonna go late, you need a way to end the game.
Yeah.
And if you're turning like a 10/10 that summons another 10/10 with Overwhelm onto the board, yeah, you're gonna end the game. Yeah, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, and like just so like Ornn's personality, right? That's another reason it fits very well into if he's going to be involved, it's going to be a precise involvement, and then he's gone.
Yep.
And that kind of leads to the quotes, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely leads to the quotes. Although if you could jump in at that point, because I do not have the quotes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So for the first side, we have, if anyone asked Ornn why he had so little patience, he would answer simply that he did have patience. Tremendous patience, in fact, and that is why his work was incomparable. He simply did not have patience for people. Don't we all agree? But nobody asked, and so he never answered.
I love Ornn.
He's so real, man.
He's so real. And then on the flip side, we have some believe that when the world truly needs him, the chosen of Ornn will finally be able to find their god. Isn't that just the way of withdrawn, ornery gods to be found only in the very last place you look? I love this quote so much because this is just like, this is the greatest tip of the hat to like Greek and Roman mythology of just gods being average people. Yeah. So if this doesn't give you a vibe of like Hephaestus, then like, you're just not paying attention. Just like, yeah, if we really need him, he's gonna show up, but he doesn't want to be here. He's got work to do.
So we'll leave it at that. And obviously join us for our next episode because we'll be talking more about Ornn and the stories and tales of him do him justice because it gives him more of a rounded character and it makes you like him even more. From like what Hetch said, he's just a dude, right? He's just a dude like all the rest of us. So as always, thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, just an immortal dude like all of us.
I'm a vampire. Wait, what are you?
I'm apparently a demigod. All right. Take care, everybody.